for joining us for this week's edition of the Carillon Sports Roundtable. I have our regular contributors, and this week's new panelist is Britton Gray. So my first question is, with the women's hockey team taking the Mandy Schwartz Challenge this past week, what do you feel the team's chances are for the upcoming season?
Well, after losing in double overtime last year in the Can West Finals, I feel like we have a very strong chance of winning the Can West Championship, then moving on to the CIS Women's Hockey Championship, and there we might be able to make some noise because I feel like we're a stronger team with much more experience this year after getting so close.
I mean, you can never base a whole season on the preseason, but I mean, they were that close last year, and this is a pretty good indication of how good this team could be. So I expect them to be just as good as last year, if not better.
I've been assured by our fabulous multimedia editor that the Cougars are going to be good again this year. I didn't pay too much attention to them last year, but clearly after the way that they finished last year, I should be paying attention. So I do believe that they're good. I don't see why not. Why can't they get back to where they were and then go even further? They're a good team.
Yeah. I mean, the women proved with that fantastic end to last season that they're easily one of the best teams in the country. And I don't think that there's any reason that they shouldn't be able to get as good a performance, if not better. So we'll see what happens.
So the U of R sports season is getting back into swing, and I'm wondering, are we going to check out any games this upcoming weekend?
Well, me personally, I've been itching to watch some hockey, like, real bad. I need it. So to get out and watch the Cougars play a little bit this weekend should be fun, and maybe catch some volleyball games too.
Yeah, I'm ready for hockey season. It's about that time. I want to see the Cougars hockey team get out there and hopefully improve on what they did last year.
For me, it has to be the football game. U of S and U of R, I guess it's a rivalry, even though it's a pretty one-sided rivalry. But it's a big game for the Rams. I mean, and I don't see why. I think it should be a good game. I mean, at least the Rams have this tendency to put up big points and make games at least exciting. So I don't see why not. I don't see why they're not going to put up 30+ points again this game. Hopefully, it ends in a win though.
I like this answering last thing because everyone just sort of turns to expect me. You know what? I'm gonna save everybody the trouble and say I'm not going to any of the games. I know I've already made some friends in the locker rooms by saying that I'm not going to any of the games. It's real simple. If you want to foster a sports culture that we clearly don't have here, then you shouldn't be able to put your games on a public broadcaster that anybody can watch, even if they don't have basic cable. There's no incentive for people to go to the games if they can just watch it on Access. And there's not much of an incentive to even watch it on Access. So, sorry guys, I'll be cheering at you from the far, far, far sidelines.
So the NHL has started their preseason. So in terms of someone taking home the cup, who do we feel is going to do that?
Well, I feel, first of all, the Boston homer inside me says the Bruins. And while I do think they have a very good shot at coming out of the East, or whatever they call it now, I don't know. It's out of the East, it's probably going to be the Bruins or the Canadians. I don't see why it wouldn't be one of those two teams because those teams are loaded right now, and that's probably going to be the most fun matchup the entire season if we see them again in the series. But I do think that the Ducks are the best team. I know that Harrison in a piece in Carillon said that he had the Ducks as the best team in the NHL in terms of the regular season. Well, I'll take that one step further. I do think the Ducks are going to win. Ryan Kessler added to that team. He's got the extra summer to, So I do think the Ducks are the best team. I think they're going to win it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Matt. They addressed a need in getting Kessler, and nobody really talks about their D-core, which is actually pretty outstanding with Cam Fowler emerging and Hampus Lindholm and Sammy Vatanen, good young players. They got a hell of a team. They're going to do all right.
I still believe that Chicago and LA are just head and shoulders above any other team in the league currently, and that the Chicago Blackhawks are going to come back even more motivated after being thrown out in overtime in Game 7 in the Western Conference Finals, and that Jonathan Toews is going to really motivate the team even more this year to go in and get the job done.
Yeah, it's different there.
I've got to go with my perennial favorites, the Millionaires Cum Canucks. I mentioned the Vancouver former name because they haven't won a cup since. That being said, all my family's from Vancouver, and I'm pretty sure I'd be met with some physical violence if I said another team. So,
Fair enough. Do we think that Rory McIlroy is the best PGA player right now? If not, who do we feel is?
I feel like there is literally no one else better than Rory McIlroy right now. I don't know. I think the only person that would compare to Rory McIlroy is probably Tiger Woods from like 7 or 8 years ago. I think at this point we're even talking about, can he break Jack Nicholson's majors record? So no, there is no one that can touch Rory McIlroy right now. The dude is on an absolute roll, so he's head and shoulders the best.
McIlroy, being from Ireland, it's sort of in his nature, but I've made it very clear my position on the PGA, and I have not changed it. I would rather watch flies screw on a piece of paint drying in the middle of a field of growing grass than give two damns about golf. That being said, since I actually had to give a legitimate answer, I'm going with Morton or a Madsen because he's got easily the coolest name on the tour.
That's fair. Rory is head and shoulders above everyone else, including Tiger Woods right now, because Tiger Woods is not as good as he once was. Plus, Rory's the only guy I know that could shoot a ball into someone's pocket and still manage to par the hole.
Well, I agree with Kyle that golf is absolutely dreadful to watch. And I guess you have to go with Rory McIlroy. Wow, for this question. But, I mean, the guy seems to fall apart at least once in every round he plays. Like, he has absolute dreadful, he'll lose 8-stroke lead and then fight and win it out in the last round, and it's I guess he still wins, but I mean he could win a lot easier than he is. Pretty inconsistent.
The Riders have been playing rather mediocre lately, and they play the Eskimos this week in Edmonton. How do you think that the team will fare?
They were playing pretty mediocre until the second half of that last game, where Tino went into full Tebow mode and led the team to victory. And I think he's going to be better this next game. He's got that comeback victory behind him, and he is more motivated and has more self-confidence than ever. It's Tino time in Regina.
Yeah, I agree. First game, the whole team was awful. Second game, first half wasn't the greatest. They picked it up second half. They got the win. Third game, the trend's going to continue. They're going to do better. Hopefully they'll get the win in Edmonton. It's a tough team to play against.
For me, I don't know. I'm losing a lot of confidence in this team because you go against the Red Blacks and you have to pull off a spectacular come-from-behind win.
Spectacular, though.
Spectacular nonetheless. Come on, it's the Red Blacks. They're so bad, and it took. And we're supposed to be one of the best teams in the league, right? We're supposed to be Grey Cup contenders, right? That kind of stuff just can't happen. The defense looks pretty good, but I don't know. It's just inconsistency problems. They tend to play down to their opponents, and you can't do that against good teams. I don't see why they can't win this weekend, but I'm really 50-50 on this team now.
I mean, Montreal beat Calgary, too. That's a pretty big upset. Montreal's brutal this year. And Calgary's one of the best teams, too, so every once in a while, shit happens.
That did seem like an entirely different team. That second half out there, they came out motivated and realized, hey, we need to start playing for Tino here.
If I may, I want to talk some gridiron psychology for the moment. Edmonton has been running some really great ads on TV and the radio, basically saying that Rider fans are loud and obnoxious and arrogant and pretty much just brutal human beings. And in my experience, that's been the case. And it's the reason I think Edmonton's going to win the game, and handily. People are comparing these tactics to what BC was doing, but they're missing the fundamental point. When BC offered free tickets to compensate for losing the game, there was an element of humiliation to that, right? There was an incentive for the team to win. Here, because you're attacking the fan base, you talk to people in Edmonton and people are rattled about that. And I think there's a huge bleed down effect from Rider Nation to the team. And I think that it's just fundamentally shaken them on some deeply psychological level, and I don't think you're going to see a performance out of them. I think that something's fundamentally altered, and I think Edmonton's done a great job. They've played some really cool off-field tactics, and it's going to pay off for them.
Does anyone feel any way about that?
I do. I feel like it was more of a marketing ploy by that team. That team doesn't get a lot of fans coming to their games anymore. And by calling Rider fans stupid and obnoxious, you're inviting Rider fans to, like, come over, make the trip, and show us how good of fans you are, like, if you are good fans. And they've sold a bunch of more tickets now because of it. And to me, it was more of a marketing ploy to make money rather than trying to psych out the Riders.
Yeah, sure it was. I mean, any marketing, anything that's going to sell tickets and merchandise, they'll do, and they did, and good on them. But, there's more to it than that. To see it just purely at the economic level. I heard an interview with some lady that said, competitive sports aren't about winning championships. It's about, playing another team and having fun. And nobody smacked, or at least not, in the audio. So, the point is that people are trying to derail Saskatchewan's momentum because Tino is still new. He's still unproven. He's still trying to gel with the team. And it is. It's just basic psychology. And it's sports psychology in one of its finest forms. And the fact that they went right for the heart of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, that's ballsy, but that's, it's untested. So we'll see if it works, and I think it's going to.
Unfortunately, I feel like it was really tactless the way that all of those ads were worded. And that's all I have to say about that. But we're going to move on. So the Washington Capitals, they came out with some truly ugly jerseys for their upcoming Winter Classic. However, ugliest jerseys ever. Go on.
Well, I'm a Flames fan, so obviously it's either going to be Edmonton or Vancouver for me that I'm choosing. And you know what, Edmonton, their jerseys actually look kind of nice. Not going to lie. So I'm going with Vancouver. I mean, this one that Matt over here is wearing is pretty ugly, but not the ugliest one they've ever had. The one with the V coming down, the orange and yellow coming like right from the shoulders down with the same thing on the pants. Oh man, it looked bad. It's gross.
We never got to see them in action, but the California Golden Seals had quite a color scheme going with teal blue and bright yellow with yellow skates on. It was something to witness because I've seen old footage of it. But recently, let's not forget about the Buffalo Sabres little Buffa Slug logo they decided to go with, which didn't make sense to anyone, and it did look like a slug, and that might be the worst logo ever in sports.
Well, as you can see, I pulled out the ugliest jersey that I could find in my wardrobe, but I think it pales in comparison to the jerseys that the Pittsburgh Steelers are wearing as their retro jerseys. They look like bumblebees. I cannot believe that people actually thought, hey, you know what's a good idea? That jersey right there. They look god-awful, and we know that for the most part, retro jerseys are kind of just cash grabs so they can sell more money, but I honestly, I'm scared for the fact that people actually buy these things and wear them.
Yeah. You know what? I was going to pick on the Rough Riders again, but I was looking at some pictures, and frankly, all of the Reebok redesigns for the NFL this season, they're like an acid eye wash. They are just god-awful. But if you want to go back a little bit further in sports history, that's fine. The Montreal Canadiens, way back in the day, had some horizontal red, white, and blue striped nightmare. They looked like they were sprung from the most American jail you could possibly imagine. Failing that, the Broncos, quite a few seasons ago, had this mustard yellow and fresh turd brown as their jersey, and it was just the worst imaginable thing. I wouldn't be able to take it seriously if I saw that rushing down the field. I'd just let them pass. Hopefully they'd run off to. It was bad.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe they just need someone new in there designing jerseys. Maybe you know someone. However, please let us know how you're feeling. Put some comments up and let us know at Carillon_sports. Thanks for joining us again this week.